But I get it now. He's got new friends and they bring new views. It's celebrity peer pressure. But the fact that he hasn't left his house in 2 years means that his views are BS. He was in a happy self-imposed lockdown with everything. Mansion on the beach, limitless options for food and entertainment. That's not real life. That's a 2-year all-inclusive vacation at Sandals Royal Barbados, which is impossible for everyone else in lockdown, including, especially, his listeners. Hell, he was doing his show from home. Does that make sense?
Well, I know some of them, and like Howard, I was on Howard Stern's show as much as anybody, and
yeah.
he was great at that time, and then he went woke.
Yeah.
And since he's gone woke, his ratings have gone down.
Once the self-proclaimed king of shock jocks, Howard Stern now looks like a dethroned monarch clinging to his faded crown, only to have Greg Gutfeld rip it clean off and toss it into the gutter. With Donald Trump's show-killing move as the spark, Gutfeld turns the flames into a roaring inferno, shredding Stern's ego, legacy, and desperate grasp on relevance with surgical precision.
She also appeared on Howard Stern, where he said he'd even vote for a wall over Trump. Harris replied, "I'm not a wall, but I am plastered."
Howard Stern, it's a name I haven't heard. I used to do a show, we used to have fun, but I haven't heard that name in a long time. What happened? He got terminated?
Yeah, they're going to separate ways because I think what they're offering salary-wise is real low than what he's getting.
You know when he went down?
Whenever you want.
You know when he went down? No, before. When he endorsed Hillary Clinton, he lost his audience. People said, give me a break. He went down when he endorsed Hillary Clinton.
When President Donald Trump decided to pull the plug on Howard Stern's show, the media predictably exploded, acting like the cancellation was the cultural apocalypse. But for Greg Gutfeld, it was the perfect setup. A once-Y radio icon reduced to a bitter, fragile caricature of himself, trying desperately to matter in an era that's left him behind. Gutfeld didn't just poke fun at Stern, he took a sledgehammer to the myth, pointing out that Trump's move simply exposed the reality everyone had been tiptoeing around. Stern's edge was gone a decade ago, and all that's left is a hollow act chasing relevance.
Announced he was leaving his show. Howard Stern announced that he and Sirius XM Radio are parting ways. Do you think the hate Trump business model that's been in the entertainment business is going out of business because it's not popular with the American people?
Well, it hasn't worked, and it hasn't worked really for a long time, and I would say pretty much from the beginning.
In the follow-up, Gutfeld barely even lingered on Trump's role. The real roast was saved for Stern himself, a man who built his career on being unapologetically shocking, only to slowly transform into a sanitized, overpaid therapist for celebrity friends. Greg painted him as a rebel who traded his leather jacket for a cardigan and now spends more time defending his famous pals than challenging them. The once infamous king of all media has become, in Gutfeld's words, the hall monitor of all media, wagging his finger at anyone who doesn't fit neatly into his safe, politically approved box.
At night.
This is what keeps me up at night. I don't understand how my fellow Americans, I don't even understand how this election is close. And yes, I'm voting for you, but I would also vote for that wall over there.
Well, he's half right. We do need a wall. To keep out gang members, fentanyl dealers, human traffickers, and Anna Navarro.
From there, the takedown got merciless. Stern's transformation from brash provocateur to politically correct mouthpiece wasn't gradual. It was a full-blown identity swap. Gutfeld skewered the way Stern went from making fun of self-important elites to practically joining their country club. The man who once thrived on roasting phonies is now clinking champagne glasses with them, nodding along to the same pre-packaged opinions you could get from any late-night host too afraid to go off script. The edginess that once made Stern dangerous has been replaced with a safe, soft-serve version of truth that offends no one important enough to fight back.
But it is incredibly brave to take this stance after you've made $300, $400 million not being woke, right? Loving Donald Trump, exploiting the mentally ill, wearing blackface. Look at the crop of woke comics, whether it's Stern or Jimmy Kimmel, his BFF, Sarah Silverman, Joy Behar, Michael Ian Black. What do they all have in common? They wore blackface. And
the hypocrisy. Gutfeld dug right in. This is the guy who once bragged about never bending to corporate overlords, yet now seems to take his marching orders straight from the same boardrooms he used to ridicule. Stern spent decades mocking sanitized morning radio shows only to become a living embodiment of one, except with bigger budgets and less charm. His interviews now feel like carefully staged therapy sessions for celebrities who already have a PR team scrubbing their image. The unpredictable chaos is gone, replaced with the calculated blandness of someone terrified to lose his cushy perch.
I hope you had a good week. I did, and no thanks to Howard Stern. True, the New York Post reported that Stern hit a chic restaurant in NYC with a crew of A-listers, including Jimmy Kimmel, Jennifer Aniston, Jon Hamm, Justin Theroux, Jason Bateman. I was not invited. I guess because my first name doesn't begin with the letter J.
Gutfeld hammered Stern for clinging to relevance through shock tactics that no longer shock. The hair may still be wild, but the persona behind it is all maintenance and no menace. It's like watching a once legendary rock band still tour, but only play half their biggest hits, and even then, only after politely asking the audience to keep it down. Stern's rebellious spirit didn't just fade, it was traded in for a gated community comfort zone where no real punches are thrown. The roast kept circling back to Stern's obsession with his own legacy. Gutfeld noted that real legends don't have to keep reminding everyone they're legends. The desperate reminders are a telltale sign the legend is slipping.
Weird, because he criticizes Trump for dividing the country, and then he says he hates his supporters. So he's not learning from his own analysis. I think he might have turned into the thing he hated. He needs to go back and watch the movie Private Parts and focus on how he portrayed Don Imus, because he's kind of turned into Don Imus in a way. It's a mix of ego and resentment.
And then came the knife twist. Gutfeld zeroed in on the irony of Stern criticizing others for selling out, coming from the man who built an empire on raw, unfiltered rebellion, only to cash it in for a seat at the polite society table. The guy who once championed free speech now treats it like a liability. He's gone from breaking rules to enforcing them, from daring the censors to practically applying for the job. By the end, Gutfeld painted a picture of Howard Stern as the media's cautionary tale, proof that no amount of past glory can save you if you stop taking risks. In Greg's words, Stern didn't lose the crown because Trump cancelled his show. He lost it because somewhere along the way, he traded the kingdom for a seat in the palace dining room.
But imagine a conversation with that crew. So how's your health? 6 vaxes, 2 boosters, and an echinacea enema. And I only got COVID 4 times. Oh yeah, I did a triple vax and an IV booster trip, plus I gave Dr. Fauci a reach around. He was like, come on, Jimmy, don't worry about your sofa. I'm not a super spreader.
Gutfeld even joked that Stern's interviews now sound less like cutting-edge radio and more like a high school guidance counselor gently asking a student about their feelings. The energy, the unpredictability, the occasional chaos that made Howard a radio legend, gone. In its place is a guy nervously keeping the conversation between the guardrails so none of his A-list friends get offended. Greg made it clear this isn't evolution, it's self-neutralization. And the moment Stern starts talking politics, Gutfeld said, it's like watching a man forget his own act.
Are a lot like his listeners, especially if you think about his listeners of old, the blue-collar truck drivers, cops, salesmen, people on the road. It's like a divorce. In the divorce, he married to a younger wife. He left the whole thing behind, and now he's got new friends. Jackie the Joke Man, he can't compete with Jimmy Kimmel, so he's adopted this whole new lifestyle. He's traded in his old life for the Hamptons. He's got new friends, and he just wants to, he's ashamed of that.
He even roasted Stern style, calling it a caricature of the old Howard, like someone put his 1990s self through an HR training video and then put him back on the air. Stern might still wear the black outfits and keep the hair, but the edge is so dulled you could butter toast with it. The rebel image is now just wardrobe, a costume for a character that doesn't exist anymore. And Stern's claim to still be telling it like it is. Greg laughed that off as telling it like the invite list to the next Hollywood gala says you can.
It's what Howard said later on his radio show. Quote, I really had an exhausting weekend. Emotionally, physically. For the first time in 2 years, I ventured out of the house. Now, maybe he's exaggerating. We all do that. In fact, the more successful you get in media, the more exhausting the easiest things become. This is true. I guess that explains Kilmeade's boundless energy.
Then Greg twisted the knife with Stern's obsession over respect from the very industry he once delighted in offending. He mocked Stern for confusing longevity with legacy, pointing out that sticking around isn't the same thing as staying great. If airtime alone made you legendary, Greg quipped, the Home Shopping Network would be the greatest channel in history. He also roasted Stern's audience, comparing diehards to sports fans wearing a player's jersey years after they've been traded, clinging to the brand name while ignoring the changes.
They went woke. It's not a chicken or egg thing there. You know what order it came. So I call this BFR. It's blackface reparations. There's nothing in Stern's previous career that could withstand this modern witch hunt that he now embraces. So this is a form of restitution. Maybe he says, if I'm woke too, the crocodile will eat me last. But they always do eat. But I get it. He flipped from populist to elitist because now he's with elitists. He's living in the Hamptons. What would the Stern of now think of the Stern of...
Greg Gutfeld even took aim at Stern's signature interviews, once the raw, unpredictable heart of his show. Now they feel like carefully choreographed promotional tours. Gone is the thrill of watching Stern push a guest into saying something they never intended to share. Instead, you get softly lit conversations where the biggest bombshell is an actor admitting they like pineapple on pizza. Gutfeld wasn't above using Stern's own history against him either, reminding everyone of the countless times he mocked other hosts for going soft.
Now remember, Stern used to throw bologna slices at strippers' butts. With accuracy, I might add. Now he's worried the possible leader of the free world can't handle his verbal foot rub. I wonder if he used to get this nervous for the strippers before he'd spank them on their bare asses with a dead fish. Here's Stern on anyone daring to poke a little fun at Kamala.
Even when I watch them on Saturday Night Live with the where they have Maya Rudolph playing you, I hate it. I don't want you being made fun of.
Oh my God.
There's too much.
By the end, the image was clear. Stern is no longer the king of all media. He's the caretaker of carefully approved media. His show is less a radio revolution now and more like an expensive museum exhibit of what rebellion used to look like. People still line up, still pretend it's just as dangerous, but they're surrounded by velvet ropes and a no-touching sign. Greg Gutfeld summed it up perfectly. Howard Stern is like a roller coaster that used to terrify you, but now the brakes kick in halfway down the first drop. That's not rebellion, that's maintenance.